Hello everyone, my name is Heather Nuske. I'm an assistant professor at the Penn Center for Mental Health at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm really excited to share with you today our results from a systematic review on emotion dysregulation and challenging behavior interventions for children and adolescents with autism. I was very fortunate to have a wonderful group of people working with me on this project. So my research assistants, Amanda, Fazana, Emma, and Bukola, along with many wonderful colleagues and mentors on this project. Now I'm going to run you through what we did and found in our review. First, the background. Well, we know that challenging behavior is highly prevalent in children with autism. Challenging behavior like aggression, self-injury, property destruction. Up to 80% of children with autism have challenging behavior, and this can really have a devastating impact on themselves, on their learning, on their family, on their peers, and on their teachers as well. Emotion regulation can be a common cause of explosive outbursts and challenging behavior in children with autism, such that emotion dysregulation, or difficulty regulating their own emotion or stress, can lead to challenging behavior. As you can see here in our theoretical model, what we have seen in many research studies is that children with autism not only experience more stress, but they have difficulties regulating their emotion. They have difficulties developing strategies or being able to independently action those strategies to regulate emotion. So all of those things combined lead them to have more instances of challenging behavior than their peers. So previous reviews have really only focused on the single case study designs. And importantly, they haven't really focused on interventions that are designed to target emotion dysregulation, really focusing on the behavioral interventions for challenging behavior only. So this is the first review to combine the literature across these fields. So our aim in this review was to extend the previous literature reviews to provide a re-examination of an update of evidence supporting discrete strategies to reduce emotion dysregulation and challenging behavior in children and adolescents with autism. Okay, now on to the methods. We identified 105 eligible studies with a high inter-rater reliability. These included 28 group designs, 65 single case designs, and 12 case reports or series on interventions for preschool children to adolescents with autism. We applied a coding system to identify discrete strategies based on the well-established autism practice guidelines from the National Clearinghouse. And we used a coding system which also included strategies commonly used for childhood mental health disorders. Okay, now on to the results. Outcomes and strategies. So only 12% of studies included an outcome measure on emotion dysregulation or regulation. Most studies focused on challenging behavior outcomes. 89% of studies found a positive effect on challenging behavior or emotion dysregulation outcomes. Now that's quite important given that 11% found a null or negative effect on outcomes. Now what were the top strategies for emotion dysregulation or challenging behavior? So the most substantial evidence we found was for parent-implemented interventions, so including parents in the intervention was critically important to make sure that we had consistency across home and school. Emotion regulation training, so that involves training on awareness of one's own emotions or stress, and then building a toolbox of strategies to help minimize that stress. So using calming type strategies, distraction or redirection type of strategies, a whole host of discrete strategies that can be taught explicitly to children with autism. And that's quite important because we know that emotion dysregulation is something that happens really under the hood, and being able to have children recognize their own stress and implement their own strategies with training from their teachers and parents that can really help to improve things. And that was one of the new strategies that we pulled from child mental health disorders that was not previously recognized in autism treatment. Reinforcement with another strategy, so positively reinforcing skills or replacement behaviors with rewards or other positive consequences. Also, visual supports were found to be very effective for helping to minimize challenging behavior and emotion dysregulation through providing some structure to the environment and to schedules. So a common one that is used for children with autism is using visual schedules. So having a schedule of the day so that children know what to expect next. That helps to minimize any anxiety around the unknowns of a given day. Okay, so antecedent-based interventions. Now, they are many types of interventions under the same bucket, all driven towards stopping what is triggering the challenging behavior in the first place. So that could be structuring the classroom so that we have an optimal space for learning, giving choices to children so that they feel like they have more autonomy in their environment. So that's really a whole host of interventions. Very interestingly, only 23% of null or negative effect studies performed a functional behavioral assessment, FBA, which is an assessment to work out why the behavior is happening in the first place. What is the reason? What is the function behind that behavior? Is the child doing that because they're trying to escape from a situation that they do not like? Are they trying to to communicate their needs because they're not able to communicate it otherwise? Are they doing the behavior because they're seeking sensory stimulation from the environment? Are they seeking attention from their environment? So only 23% of those studies that did not find a positive effect performed FBA. So that's really telling us how important FBA is to inform strategy selection in the first place. Okay, now let's look at the participant characteristics. So most of the studies that were included in this review focused on elementary school students, followed by preschool students, but far less on middle school and high school students. So a clear need for more of a focus there. Only around a third of studies documented race and ethnicity and IQ. Those that did find diversity and variability, so that's good to know though. Okay, now let's look at our conclusions. So findings highlight the importance of teaching emotion regulation skills to children and adolescents with autism explicitly. So really breaking it down, helping them to understand when they're stressed, building in supports to deal with the stress when they have it. So they're building a toolbox of strategies that they can use when they're feeling stressed. Really along with the positively reinforcing replacement behaviors, very, very important. Providing visual support, so making sure that we have what we can in the environment to support children with autism. We know that processing verbal information is really tough for them, so building in visual supports where possible. Addressing stresses proactively, so that whole big bucket of antecedent-based strategies, really to prevent challenging behaviors in the first place, incredibly important. And involving both children and adolescents always in treatment decisions, but also their parents in treatment. So making sure that they're involved right from the very first steps to making decisions on treatment programming and involving them in the implementation of strategies as well. So many of the strategies that we talked through today and that were included in the review target challenging behavior or emotion dysregulation indirectly through teaching replacement skills to minimize stress. That's really important. We know that these behaviors happen in the context of kids not having the skills to be able to negotiate different situations. And so those behaviors serve a function. And as we learned through this review, looking at that function early in the process to figure out what would be the best strategies for children is really key. So future research should aim to conduct more rigorously designed studies. We had a range of study design included in this review. We did that by design to look at both group-based studies that have been done more recently, and the history of, of single case study designs, which most of our conclusions up until now about best strategies have been based on. Also including emotion dysregulation as an outcome or a mediator in studies, since we know that emotion dysregulation or supporting emotion regulation is critically important for reducing challenging behaviors in children with autism. Okay, now here's our references in case you're interested, and acknowledgements. We'd love to thank the National Institutes of Mental Health for supporting this work on my Career Development Award to develop digital technology to support emotion regulation in children with autism. And also, we want to thank all the wonderful people on the autism spectrum that have inspired this body of work. Thank you for your attention, and please let me know if you have any questions.